Welcome to another episode of the Breakthrough series. Today I'm joined with Eric Gerber from the Gerber Group at Lower.com, and I'm incredibly excited to hear his story, how he came up, his challenges, and the defining moments that really shaped who he is today. Eric, thank you so much for being here today.
It's great to be here, man. I appreciate the invite.
Awesome. Take me back a little bit. So for people that might not know who you are, growing up, when you were looking into the future, who did you want to be? What were your sights set on when you were younger?
Central Ohio kid, born and raised. And, growing up, I really kind of was attracted to psychology. I thought I was going to be a psychologist one day, and then the next day, like, I'm going to play in the NBA. Well, I'm a 6'1" guy, so like the NBA isn't really realistic at that point, right? But psychology really intrigued me. How does the mind work? Why do we do the things that we do? I think it was more so trying to understand people. I like that.
So you were, you mentioned a little bit, you were really wanting to be in the athletic sports, and you went to the West Coast to play sports. And then you had a defining injury that kind of changed everything.
Yeah, I had a bumpy run growing up as a kid. Like, to say that I was a handful for my mom is an understatement. I mean, I wore her life out. Like, honor roll one semester, next semester, it might be a litany of C's, right? I just had so much energy and I needed to harness it in the right direction. And, as I got older towards the end of high school, it looked like, I might have some athletic opportunities out West. So I wanted to go pursue that. And unfortunately, a slew of injuries ended that before it really materialized into anything noteworthy. And that's when I learned for the first time in a crushing way. I mean, I was depressed. After that last head injury, I was in isolation in the dark with ice on my head for like 4 or 5 months.
Oh, wow.
I realized that I knew what depression was at that point, and I needed to do something different with my life, but got a complete shocker of a call that kind of zapped me back down to earth and shook me out of that.
Yeah, and I can imagine like you have anything your sights are set on that's taken away from you abruptly, you kind of have to start rethinking the life. And I mean, anyone can look at you now and say, oh, he's got everything figured out. People don't typically see the come up and the challenges that nearly every successful person has to go through. Any person, really.
Sure.
What does that mean for you? I mean, how did you went through that process 4 or 5 months? I mean, it probably took longer to recover. You're now thinking, what am I going to do with my life? Things are not the way I thought they were. So
Yeah.
What was your thought process then?
Well, I mean, you don't know what you don't know. And so, like, I still have some remnants of issues from those injuries, 20 some years later. But I found out, like, this is the deciding point for me, is I found out that I was going to be a dad. 21 years old, not in a relationship with a mother. I loved her. We were close in high school at the time. And when I found out I was going to be a dad, something kind of flipped at me. 21, there's so much I don't know. And I knew at that moment that I wanted to be a great father. I didn't ever think about that at any point in time up until then, until it was actually here.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is I didn't know what I didn't know, right? I didn't have any money. I didn't have a college degree. I had to stop going to school at that point. But I would go back and finish at a later date. So long story short, I ended up raising that girl who is now a freshman in college, largely by myself, absent her mother. And that, when that became a reality for me, you don't have the luxury of, sitting there trying to, what am I going to do? And waver and waffle. Like, you have got to have a see ball, get ball mentality. And I put my foot on the gas and focus on good things and try to be a good father.
What made you not want to give up, where it's like, okay, you have your back against the wall and it's not like someone's coming in, they're going to just hand things to you. And there's now people relying on you. You have a daughter. What made you not give up and instead actually go in and put the foot on the gas?
I had a lot of people predict that I would fail in life. I had a lot of people look at me and tell me that you're just a statistic. I had a lot of people think that I was, maybe not the greatest person and maybe a low value person at that because of some of the choices I made when I was younger. And that was enough to create kind of a chip on your shoulder, right? You can only run on dark energy for so long. like that chip on your shoulder, that I'll show you, I call that dark energy. It's negative energy. And it is rocket fuel if you harness it the right way. So when I was in my 20s, I went into playoff LeBron, zero dark 30 mode, where, I mean, he shuts off social media and he's just locked in on, let's go win a championship. That's how I spent the rest of my 20s raising my daughter. I focus on getting my health back in order. I focus on scaling in my career. I focused on getting in good shape because I was an athlete. I'd fallen out of that. So focus on getting good shape. I was taking care of my mother who had had a stroke. And so, you know, I had, you know, a lot riding on every single minute of every single day.
Yeah.
There was no fat whatsoever.
No downtime.
No, I mean, I still, you know, would go out and do things, but I lost a lot of friends in that time in life, you know, because think about what you're normally doing in your 20s. You know, you're finishing school, you're traveling, you're starting your career, you're hitting happy hours, you're doing it. You know what I was doing? I was working full time, taking care of my daughter full time and my mom, and then going to school online to finish my econ degree.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's respectable, because I've seen and I've heard from even a lot of my mentors, there's that moment when you want to achieve something big, what you're describing, a process where you, as some people call it nowadays, like you lock in, you have to.
You go ghost and you disappear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And a lot of people have to do that intentionally. They have to choose to do that. And it almost sounds like you had no choice and you had to embrace it. And you kind of had that push. And then that's sometimes an even harder thing to do, because you didn't, it's not like you woke up and like, oh, I'm going to do this. You kind of were pushed into it.
Well, I mean, Tim, like, you're not wrong, but at the same time, I didn't view that I had a plan B.
Yeah.
I had plan A, and that was it. Like Cortez, we're burning the boats. No one's leaving. We make it work here or we perish. And I truly felt that way. I didn't go, woe is me, or let me lick my wounds. This is a tough lot in life. Like, I never felt like that. I didn't want to let my daughter down.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to let that happen. And that's why, like, she was part of that, right? But the other part of it was, you know, that chip on your shoulder, right? And that just, I knew that I was better than how I had lived up to that point.
That's inspiring. So, what was your plan? You're working your personal development, you're growing, you said you're scaling your career. What does that mean? Were you going into lending, or were you doing something else?
Yeah. So I got into the mortgage business. I saw an ad in the paper that used to be a thing for a position. You can make $90,000 a year as a loan officer. Okay. Well, this is in like 2006. Okay. And I remember I went to my stepmom at the time and I said, I can go make $90,000 a year. And she just looked at me like, that's never going to happen. Right. And so I took the job, and this was like a scene out of Boiler Room. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
All right. Giovanni Risi, like, I'm talking like old school, hard selling on the phone, subprime borrowers, credit trigger leads. You know, we're on a dialer with leads coming in, and we're not allowed to sit until we make a sale. You get somebody on the phone who's interested, your sales manager runs over to close that. Like, we don't know what we don't know. Like, that's how I cut my teeth in the industry. Stated income, stated docs. It was the wild, wild west. And as I got into that a little deeper, and I realized, like, man, there's some not so great stuff happening here.
Yeah.
Decided to get out of that, and I ended up taking a job in a consumer direct mortgage department at Chase. And this is, you know, I had tried to get in there for multiple months. I heard you can make some real money there. And they agreed to hire me in I think it was May of, I don't remember what year it was. It was May, and I didn't actually start until August. And I had to call them 3 or 4 times after that, like, when am I starting? When am I starting? But once I got in there and I knew what that income potential was, I put my foot on the gas and I just outworked everyone, everyone. And I'm not saying that to, like, pat myself on the back or seem like I'm this awesome salesperson. I did it for my daughter. I did it to put us in a completely different opportunity zone in life, and to help support my mom. And so when other people were coming into work, it was for money.
Yeah.
Right. It was for, you know, maybe bragging rights, or it was something to do. For me, it was burn the boats. There is no plan B. This has to work for me. This has to work for me. And I have to be relentless. And that's how I was every single day.
I think that's so incredibly inspiring, because when you have that feeling of like, I'm all in,
Yeah.
you kind of feel alive. Like you feel like you're living to and doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Yeah. Well, Hormozy says like, don't have a plan B.
Mhm.
Andy Frisella, the creator of 75 Hard,
Yeah.
which shout out to him, man. Like I did his program last year. I'm getting ready to finish the Live Hard year. That was a complete enhancement for me in life.
Mhm.
You know, he says the same thing too. Like you have got to be all in on one thing.
Mhm.
I hear a lot of people talk about, you know, I'm going to dabble in this and dabble in that and have all these different things. Jack of all trades, master of none. You're never going to be able to do anything truly relevant if that's how you are. You got to put all of your energy, all of your passion into that one thing
Mhm.
and absolutely blow it up.
Yeah, it seems the trend, like they say, success leaves school clues. It seems like the trend is you put all your eggs in one basket at the beginning, when you're just starting out at the beginning, because you just have to risk it if you really want to do something big. Actually, you mentioned the year from Andy Frisella. I know 75 Hard. What's the year?
Well, it's a Live Hard program, and it's a 12-month thing. So the first 75 days of the program is 75 Hard,
Mhm.
right? And what that is, if you don't know, it's you're drinking a gallon of water a day. You're working out twice for 45 minutes each session. Once has to be outdoors, does not matter what the elements are. And trust me, I've done this in -20 wind chill. I've done this in 100 degrees and it's humid and we're down in Florida. Like,
Yeah.
can't breathe. You know, you also have to read 10 pages.
Mhm.
A couple other things associated with that too. And so you do that for 75 days straight. And pretty impressive. Well,
Yeah.
that's not the end of the program. There's another whole set of tasks that need done. There's phase 1, 2, and 3 post 75 Hard.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And so phase 1 is everything you were doing in 75 Hard plus a 5-minute ice cold shower. You've got to do, you know, a handful of other options. Like it's just very time consuming. You hit the power list, which like we can give people more information on this at a later time, but it's an all consuming thing. And it's not a, you know, you're on a diet too, right? But it's not a diet plan. It's not a get ripped plan. It's kind of a byproduct of doing these things is you're going to get strong, but it's a mental toughness challenge.
Mhm.
And what I realized, and this is how it kind of ties in with me being a single dad and me, you know, kind of busting my rear to get to where I am, you know, I was running on dark energy forever. And then life got really, really comfortable.
Mhm.
You know, we made a lot of money in the industry, you know, pre-COVID and then certainly during COVID.
Mhm.
And it's not that I wasn't working hard anymore. I'm always working hard. I love, you know, helping clients and talking to people. What happened was that I ran out of fuel. I ran out of my why, that energy, because life is kind of cushy. Life is kind of
Yeah.
good at this point.
Mhm.
And what
I
I,
figured out, like, you've helped your daughter, she's grown up, your parents.
yeah, my mother passed away in 2017 at that point. We knew that was coming. And
Mm.
I expanded my family, had more children. You know, things are mostly pretty good. And I hit a wall. I couldn't run off that same chip on the shoulder energy or, you know, we don't think you're going to make it. And I needed to find a different why. And it took me a couple of years. And I started to, you know, drink a little more than I wanted to,
Mhm.
especially during COVID. We were so busy. I was a new dad again. And I turned to alcohol, not in a I can't function way, but, you know, drank more than I ever had in my life. I was never really a big drinker.
Mhm.
That's kind of the wall I hit is, well, what's my why? And I did the 75 Hard program. I'm doing the Live Hard program because I needed to realize that I need to focus on the neck up stuff. And anything else that happens, I can't worry about it. It's all about how you respond to it.
Mhm.
And there needs to be a greater meaning. So I found a new purpose.
Mhm.
And that new purpose is helping other people.
Mhm.
It's light energy. It's good energy. It's how can I help the people that are on my team within my organization
Yeah.
achieve results they've never achieved before?
Mhm.
How can I help the people that partner with us in business to, you know, scale and help more people as well?
Mhm.
And there's a different kind of motivation that comes with that. I'm not running on that angry energy. I'm running on that. How can we help people energy? And it's cool.
That's incredible. And I mean, all the things you've learned coming up to this point, and now you get to share with other people. I think that's one of the most rewarding things mentoring, some people would say like discipling people is like one of the most rewarding things you could do.
I love that aspect of it, but I learn just as much from them as they learn from me, if not more so. You know, I think one of the things I love about being in the mortgage industry, and this is like legitimately why I've stayed in it, is I am, you know, see something shiny, get distracted, like go to the next thing. That's been my personality. But when you're working with people, there's all these different layers, right? And we're all different. We all have different, we learn differently, we communicate differently, we have different stories, you know, we have different nuances. So like I'm engaging with people and talking to people all the time.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, how can you get bored? There's so much variety, right? So like, that's why I love what I do, is I get to interact with so many different people, hear so many different stories, help solve so many different problems that it just feels new all the time.
I can relate to that. The whole point of even starting this podcast, when I got into this industry, very similar to like your boiler room scene, it's me calling people, I don't know anyone, I'm trying to sell them something that I don't even know what I'm selling. It's like, it's a terrible experience. I quickly realized that the building relationships is the key. And this was one of the best ways I get to hear people's stories. They share their stories. 100 or so of their best friends are going to hear their story, learn a little bit about them. And then from that, once that trust is built up, so many other opportunities come up where some of it has to do with helping people, helping other businesses that are in the industry. And it's really incredible to see like how everything starts to connect when you actually focus on what can I do for others rather than what can I do for myself.
It sounds good. Like if you're cynical, it's like, oh, like, you know, all right, like, are you really this way? Like you're just doing that as like a veiled way to try to, you know, make some money, big yourself up, whatever. Like that's what a cynic would say. But when you authentically are that way, because here's what's going to happen. You're going to give your time and your help to people. They're going to take it, say all the right stuff, and then that law of reciprocity is not going to happen. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. People do that to me. You know, they're sending you a message at that point. And the message is clear. Like, they're not worth your time. The people that appreciate when you authentically operate the way that you just said you do, trying to help people and focus on things you could do for others, like, and they recognize that and they latch on, and it's that law of reciprocity, and you get some synergy going, you could build an empire with people like that. Lifelong relationships with people like that.
Yeah, I mean, just this past couple of days, I was talking with the CEO of Hobby Lobby. And they're a faith-based company, but the idea behind it is like, he's like, I have servant leadership, and that's his whole thing, because even with 7,000 or so employees, you can still be the one that is giving rather than taking, because he could take as much as he wants. I mean, he has all the opportunities, but that's not how big ideas are built. That's not how big accomplishments are made when you focus just on yourself. You can veil it, you can hide it, but it will show
it for so long. And so his why is my why. Helping people, feeling good about that, uplifting others. And you could run on that energy, I think, for the rest of your life, right? When you have a true mission, I mean, he's got an impressive company.
Yeah. When I talk with people, especially when we're in the hiring process, I always explain to them, there's a lot of people that will do great things. One of the common things is like, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I always explain to them that there's different reasons why people will do that. One of them would be like, they treat others the way they want to be treated because they want to get something out of it. And the reason as to why you're doing those things is going to be the difference between how far you come and how far you go. Our reason is it's Jesus said to do that. So the reason is much different than what other people might have. I think it's so important. Like you mentioned, you spend a couple years to learn about what is going to be my new why. I think that's one of the greatest things someone can do, because if they have that strong why, everything else just falls in place.
I also, like, on the subject of faith, I firmly believe that God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. And I know, like, some people may disagree with that, and that's fine, but it's really like a strength mindset, right? Like, life is, I think Jim Tressel, Ohio State legendary coach, had a quote like this: life is something like 10% what happens and 90% how you respond. Right? I believe that's true in pretty much all facets of life.
Yeah, I can definitely test that. There's so many times like you're you're in these great rooms where it's a networking event and 3 people walk in and walk out, and one has a bunch of opportunities lined up and the other one is it doesn't see the opportunities there. It's just how you perceive things a lot of times.
Well, yeah, the law of magnetism comes to mind too. And like, so if you're not putting off good energy, if you're not, building rapport with people, if you're not someone who's pleasant to be around, you're not going to do well in any industry. And so that's a you problem. That's a neck up issue, right? That you've got to get under control. And I also tie that in with adversity, right? Because life it has peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Right. In our industry right now, interest rates have been high, and they've been high for a long time. And okay, is that the reason that it's tough? Well, no. Like, inflation's up. There's a housing shortage overall. Like, there's a lot of things going on, and it's tough. We had 420,000 loan officers 4 years ago. There's 90,000 right now.
Really?
And of the 90, I don't even know how many are relevant producers. Like, I have a guess, but there's all this attrition and this shrinking happening. And when you're faced with that kind of adversity, like we all are, we all have, bills we got to pay and kids we need to take care of and a retirement to fund and all those things. Like, I mean, what do? Your back's against the wall. So, okay, well, you need something to rely on. What's your foundation? Well, if your foundation is, serving others, helping others, law of reciprocity, I'm going to have a good attitude, I've got mental toughness, I could handle just about anything. That's why I went through that program, is I wanted to make myself as impervious to the ebbs and flows in life as I possibly could, because I've got kids who need me and people I work with that need me too, and I can't fall.
That's incredible. I keep hearing the program, and I started doing it, and then I got sick halfway through it, so I had to stop. But that I feel like that has to be my next challenge. I did the marathon. I keep hearing the 75 hard thing. I'm gonna need to do it.
I'm not gonna sit here and act like I could do a marathon right now, but a few days ago I dropped down and did 1,000 push-ups and 1,000 jumping jacks in like 55 minutes.
That's incredible.
So like, I might not be able to run that kind of a distance without blowing my knees out, but I would try.
Just take it slow. So you 400 some thousand to 90,000. What are you guys doing at the Gerber Group that you think? And I know you mentioned the servant side of things, but more practically speaking, like, what are you guys doing that makes you different? That makes you one of the best in the industry?
We have a relentless culture of growth, a relentless culture of trying to find wins anywhere that we can. And you win with people. Like, it doesn't matter if you work for ABC Bank, XYZ mortgage company, like, and you have this product and you do these kinds of discounts for this. That stuff doesn't matter. If you don't have the right human beings on your team that have the right attitude, the right mindset, the right skills and experience also, although some of that can be coached. If you don't have the right nucleus of people, you're going to fail. So we focus on the people that we have and investing in them and giving them all the support and resources that they need to achieve their goals, whatever that those may be in our industry, right? And so we're focused on not just opening up the door to anybody who might want to have a job in our industry and we take a flyer on it. We don't do that. We look for the right type of human beings. How are you as a person? What's your work ethic? Do you have a good attitude? I know a lot of people that make a lot of money in our world. They're jerks. They're jerks. I know real estate agents, some amazing real estate agents that do very, very well. Great human beings. I know some that do well and they're jerks too. And we don't want to partner with people that have bad attitudes and are selfish, and it's the look at me stuff. So having the right mix of human beings is by far the biggest advantage that we have out there. And then we backfill that with great products and great technology and all the things that you need to really run an efficient organization.
What do you do to filter out the people and identify who are those people that have that good attitude? Because a lot of times, I mean, people can, in the interview process, fake it, or when they first meet you. What have you found works for you?
Yeah, that's a great point. So you could definitely, if you're skilled at it, you could fake your way through a conversation, a couple meetings, right? But we have a way of going a lot deeper than that in the interview process, the prospecting process. Like it's a small community. Like we all know each other in our industry in some capacity, or know someone who knows someone. So if you're, if you're prickly, if you don't work well with others, like you're going to have a reputation for that. That's going to get around, right? We're also going to know from partners that you work with. We're going to know, just based on how you answer certain questions and how you carry yourself. And even there's always little hints, right?
Yeah.
But you're not going to bat 1,000. So, we've hired people that are not a cultural fit. And, it's not as if you just get rid of them to get rid of them. Like, that's not how it works. But, sometimes you have to have a difficult conversation. And, by the way, it's not about us. It's not about that difficult employee. It's not about me. Our mission is to serve the families that come to us and entrust us with their home buying and investment real estate needs. They're first and foremost, and those referral partners. So that's where we tend to put the focus on, right? Versus, egos of employees or anything like that. And, fortunately, Tim, we've got a really great group of people, and we haven't had a lot of those problems. We're able to snuff it out in advance usually.
That's good. And usually if you have not necessarily a type, but like a really high growth mindset, usually the people that are not a good fit, they kind of probably filter themselves out rather than you having to do that, because it's hard. If you don't want to have that growth mindset, then it's hard to be around people that do have that.
Well, this market's humbling too, because most loan officers, we talked about the decline in numbers, right? I mean, we're down to what, 25, 30% the headcount we had 4 years ago. What do you think that also means? Well, people have made less money. You bring things down to earth a little bit. So, there's no right or wrong answer to this question. It's just me personally. I look for certain people of certain character, right? And, we've had people that we've had to move out, one reason or another, but they typically come to that decision on their own accord.
That's so. Looking into the future, you're one of the most recognized lending teams here in Columbus. What does the future look like for you personally? Do you have goals of, I'm going to open up another company, I'm going to do something else, I'm going to make this much bigger?
Yeah. I'm glad that you asked that question, because I've been thinking about that a lot. I went through a very protracted, complicated divorce that lasted about 1.5 years. And I did a lot of self-reflection during that phase. And we've been out of it for a while, and things are fine now. But I asked myself that question: is like, what do I see in the future in this industry? Like, what are the goals anymore at this point? Because I've closed a lot of loans over the years. I've helped other people close a lot of loans. Like, what do I want to do? And we've actually made the decision to lean a little bit more into the Lower brand. So I'm not getting rid of Gerber Group. I love the name. I love the branding. We're boutique. We're small. We're nimble. We're personal. We're elite at what we do. We know how to execute. But we have a mission at Lower to be top 5 in the next 5 years, industry wide, and we have all the resources that we need to do it. So I'm a regional vice president within the organization. My counterparts, and even below at the branch manager level, are coming to the realization that we all need to lean into that Lower name. And in order to do that, we've got to promote the company, and we've got to be proud of where we are. And I think the messaging that you're going to see with our organization is getting ready to shift. We've already had massive changes in the last year for the good. We hired, a new head of recruiting, Craig Montgomery, who is one of the more impressive human beings I've ever met. Adam Weiner from Redfin. I had the chance to connect with him recently, and he's working on some big things. But we also have some tenured important people here. Nick Gallagher, our national sales director, has never broken his word to me one time since I've been at this company. You don't find that in our industry. So where we're going is we're investing in people, we're investing in technology, we're investing in where the ball's going, not where it is right now. And we're developing our business to be somewhere that, you're going to want to be. You're going to want to be a part of our culture. You're going to see these wins that we have out there. And we're hoping that attracts, even more, excellent candidates in the future.
That's really exciting to hear, because at Orange Visuals, we're taking it the same approach. We're looking into 5 years in advance for example, and seeing like what are the things that are going to happen that could disrupt our industry. I mean, AI is coming out. There's so many things that are coming out, and rather than being afraid of, oh, how could this affect our industry? Well, let's lean into it.
Agree.
Let's see if that change is going to happen. Let's bring it here first, and let's bring it nationwide. And that will mean we have to bring in the best team members. We have to humble ourselves in the sense of what worked 3 years ago might not work anymore, and we have to adjust. We have to adapt. And I think that's really the exciting part of what we get to do, is we have the freedom to actually make change that is going to shape the industry.
I love what you just said. It's like we say, adapt or die, right? Or embrace the suck. Like, you have got to be comfortable with change. I mean, mortgage professionals know that. Interest rates go up, they go down. It's a good housing market, it's a bad housing market.
Yeah.
Refinances are good, now they don't exist at all, right? So, I mean, you've got to be pliable, right? I don't remember is it Zhao? Like, there's a passage that talks about like the flower that's blowing in the wind, right? And if the stem were straight and didn't bend at all, that storm would knock the flower over, right? But the flower stem's pliable. It goes with the flow of the wind and all that. Like, that's how we have to be as people, especially in our industry with a lot of volatility.
Through this entire journey, what have been some good people that you've looked up to, or maybe it's been books that you've read that really helped you develop personally?
Yeah, well, Nick Gallagher, I'll call him out. He's our national sales director. He and I used to work together years and years ago at Chase. Known him for a long time. He is a person that I confide in, I respect, I listen to, and there are others that shape me. I was playing hero ball for a while and we figured it out on my own, and that worked for a while until then, and then I realized I need some guardrails. Mark Olson was my manager when I worked at Huntington National Bank. Mark is one of the best human beings I've ever met. He passed away, I believe he had throat cancer or lung cancer, several years ago, 2018. Broke my freaking heart. I love that guy. He challenged me in a way that let me know he cared about me. And that impact at that moment in time in my career was pivotal, and it helped me step my game up and take it to an entirely new level. And then, regarding books, part of the program is you got to read. So, and I love to read.
What are you reading right now?
The Persuasion Story Code.
Who's that by?
Mr. Garfinkel. I don't remember his first name, but so I'm about halfway through it, and it's essentially centered around how to tell a story in a persuasive way to get your point across. And the reason I like books like that, so a book on body language, mastering, things of that nature, I want to be able to relate to people as much as possible, because the more you can relate to others, the more you can connect with them, the more you connect with them, they get comfortable with you, you can build rapport, and then you could really get, underneath that surface level, that veil that most of us put up, and figure out, what they want, what they need, what their problems are, and you could build a real relationship at that point.
Reminds me of my wife's reading. I want to reread the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's been
old school.
Yeah. As we kind of wrap up, I wanted to see what advice or lessons that you've learned would you share with your 21-year-old self as your back is against the wall, you don't know what the future holds. What would you say to your younger self?
How about two things? First of all, don't focus on the entirety of the problem or the entirety of the objective. Instead, break it down to digestible chunks and just try to win the day. Because if you win enough days, you're gonna, and you know how that rolls, right? So that's what I would say first and foremost. Just win today, right? Worry about tomorrow. If you stack up enough wins, you're gonna kick butt in life, right? The other thing that I would say is relationships matter. So if you say you're gonna do something, you give someone your word, you better adhere to it. Because if you don't, people are gonna think that you're a flake. You won't be trustworthy. You'll lose ethos. You'll lose credibility. So, seek out those small wins, keep your word. Those are two big things.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on. Like, I wish I could lock arms with that guy and sit down for, like we just did, for an hour or two and just, and talk to him. But
I think
he did okay.
The inspiring thing about those two things is that anyone can do those things.
I like to focus on what's in my sphere of control. And that's my attitude. My 18-year-old daughter will recite this, by the way. My attitude and my effort. How do I think about things?
Yeah.
Right. And then what do I put my time and my energy into? Right.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that, for the most part, you just kind of have to be pliable, roll with the punches.
Yeah. I mean, you can't control what you can't control, but you can control what you can control.
Right.
Well, is there a way that people could reach out to you? Let's say there is someone that is 21 or younger, or even maybe a little older, that is in that situation where they're like, I would love to hear, how would you do things in my case? What's the best way for people to reach you? Like, we can make sure to include it.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I just signed you up for mentorship.
It's okay. I'm pretty easy to find on social media. You know, Eric Gerber at Lower, you'll pull it up, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. My website for our company is gerbermortgage.com. And then my cell phone number, 614-260-1517. You could text me.
So you were in school, you had a candy selling contest.
We did. All right. So I'm a competitive dude. I always have been. My first job was a paper route with the Suburban News Publishing in Upper Arlington. And they would drop the newspapers off. I did that job one day. I ended up throwing like the whole lot of papers in a dumpster right by my house. Like, so that didn't connect with me. With the candy selling contest, I was like, okay, I could do this. So I was in, I think 4th or 5th grade or whatever it was. And we have the opportunity to go sell candy and you can win prizes, right? And I saw that as an opportunity. I would literally go door to door from the time I woke up until it got dark out every freaking day. And I won the contest. I was delivering these things in the rain, you name it. I won the contest by like 17 miles. It was a massive difference. And I took the money from the first time I won it as a kid, and I got on my Huffy, and I rode my bike from my mom's apartment complex to the Lazarus building in Upper Arlington at Kingsdale. And I bought all my cousins Toon Squad jerseys and like from Space Jam. Right. And I had it all gift wrapped too. And I rode on my bike, I'm like 10 years old, back to my mom's place in the freaking rain, like around Christmas.
That's incredible.
And so did I do it to win the contest? Like, sure. Like, that was enough for me. It was just to compete and to win. I didn't really care about like the money component, because I turned around and I gave it away to family. And I didn't realize it at the time. Like, I just thought, this is what I want to do. Like, it was my decision to go do that. But that's the kind of person that I've consistently been throughout my life.
That's incredible. I like it. I'll let you talk so you have like a short little clip for it.
All right, cool.
That's so funny, because I was selling candy in school too.
Well, your story resonates with me. Like, the greatest thing that your parents did for you was give you a front row seat into how to bust your ass. That's the best gift that they ever gave you. A lot of people don't get to see how their parents work, or how they earn a living, or maybe they had it made. They don't develop that work ethic. We learn kinesthetically by getting our hands on these things, getting dirty, doing it ourselves. But you had a model example in front of you, and they wanted more. So there was something brewing in you that inspired you to build a great life for yourself. And to be where you're at your age and as focused as you are is extremely impressive, because not a lot of people are, for a variety of reasons. And you could ride that energy and ride that wave to some pretty incredible things. And I've no doubt you will.
I want to say thank you, but like you mentioned, it's really the upbringing and
Did it make you a little uncomfortable when I said that about you? A little bit. Does it make you, because you haven't arrived.
Yeah.
Right?
I think if you would have said it 3 months ago, it would have made me really uncomfortable, but I am so determined and so focused that, like, we were last week sitting here in the office. Vivek was coming into our office.
Yep.
And one of my team members, and I already prepared the night before. I didn't know if I was going to get a chance to talk to him, but I was like, I need to prepare. They were like, are you sure you're going to get a chance to talk to him? Like, what if you don't? And I looked him dead in the eye. I was like, 100% chance I'm going to talk to him. I didn't know how, but it's going to happen.
You're going to do it.
Yeah. So
burn the boats. He will not be denied.
It has to happen. Yeah. But I would say that the upbringing is so important, and I'm so grateful to have it. When I was 16, I thought to myself, I'm like, okay, I've seen my parents work for themselves. I don't know anything else. The idea of like expecting someone to hand me something, that never existed in my life. So, I've never had a job ever. Like I've only worked for myself, besides like I might work for my dad a couple times. So I made it up in my mind that from 16 to at least 20, I knew I'm going to live with my parents. I'm going to do everything I can to make some kind of business. And if at the end of 4 years I still fail, I'm still where I started. So
Sure.
I tried all kinds of stuff. And I mean, I'm really grateful to be where I am now, but we're just getting started.
Look, man, you learn by doing.
Yeah.
You got so what's your worst case scenario? All right, you go all in. You devote your passion, your soul, your blood, your sweat, everything. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And you take a big swing and you don't win and you fail. You fall a little short, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the worst thing that could happen to you. Do you know how much knowledge and experience you're going to take from that for what's next?
Oh yeah.
And then look, if you do something new and it happens, you keep going and going and going until you crack the code.
You mentioned like, does that make you uncomfortable? I heard someone say that people are not most afraid of that they could fail. What makes them most afraid is the fact that they might succeed, and that what they know they could be, they actually become. That's the most
I don't
scary
believe
part.
that. I'm not trying to be a contrarian, but I think that that's a misguided statement. Okay. When I asked you, did it make you a little uncomfortable when I said those things about you? It's because when I heard those things, when I was making my ascent in my 20s, it would make my skin crawl for a different reason. I knew listening to that was a poison pill. I knew listening to those back pats from people who 3, 4, 7 years earlier were telling me I was nothing with how they would treat me. I knew it was poison. I knew that if that took root in my mind, I would take my foot off the gas. I would start to get comfortable, and I wouldn't pursue my passion and my goals as hard.
Yeah.
So, that's why I asked you, does it make you a little bit uncomfortable when people compliment you, say all these great things? Because I'm on this path, but I'm not where I want to be yet, right? And that's why I brought that up, because that's how I felt when I was your age in my 20s.
Yeah. I always say, like, even if it's like a huge win or there's not as many good things going on depending on the week, I always tell my team, it's like, we're just getting started. And even if it's like we're on our high, I'm like, guys, we're just getting started. Because the vision is so big that like even 3 or 4 years in, we have a lot to do. And the reason why is because our vision is not just for ourselves. Like if we wanted to live a comfortable life, I mean, to travel a little bit here and take some time off there, it's not the hardest thing in the world to accomplish that. But if your vision's beyond that, and the more successful people I talk with, the more I realize their purpose is beyond anything that they could achieve for themselves. And when you start thinking that way, like ultimately global impact, you start to see that, you know what, we're literally just getting started.
Sure. Well, you know why that is, right? They figured something out. They figured out what life's supposed to be about. Especially, this could apply to a man or a woman, but especially for young men. Your mission ought to be the best version of yourself. And it's a destination you're never going to reach. It's a journey towards self-improvement and trying to reach your potential. You should never quit trying new things. This is why people should go to new places and they should travel. You know why? Like when you do that and you're in an unfamiliar area, in an unfamiliar environment, what happens is your senses are heightened because you're taking in all the newness that's around you for the first time. And it's similar to how little kids are, how they interact with and see the world and see things. You get that energy, that rejuvenation from being in a new place. It's similar to how like kids are when they experience something for the first time. And there's only so many things in life that you can use to mimic that.
Yeah.
But you use that as fuel, and you should always be pursuing the best version of yourself. And it's an ongoing thing. It just goes and goes.
Yeah. I think one of the most recently, one of the most powerful things I've been learning is you can push yourself as much as you want, but that only goes so far.
Yep.
And being around the people that are way ahead of you, way above you, or smarter than you, or more driven than you, it pulls you. And that pulling is so much stronger than any like push you can give yourself.
I think that matters a ton too, man, because you are who you hunt with. If your friends are, not about that life, and not thinking about how to achieve their potential and do anything great with their life, they're going to slow you down. And I'm not telling you to just stop hanging out with all your friends. I'm just saying, you know, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most.
Yeah.
And you've really got to guard the neck up. So we have so many issues in our society. Most of them are neck up problems, right? So you really have to guard, you know, what you allow yourself to consume and what you think, right? And if you're judicious with those things, you could be focused and in your early to mid 20s, building an awesome company and, you know, kicking butt along the way.
Yeah. It's exciting times.
Yeah, I agree.
That's, yeah, I think it's so easy to, get focused in on yourself. And that's like I think for me personally, it's, like the example that Christ set. I think, I mean, I don't know how much you are familiar with it, but him being God coming down to earth, that whole story where he's God, he comes down as a humble man, ultimately dies on the cross for us, the humility that's involved there compared to the mission that he was here to accomplish. It's such a big gap where for us as people, it's so often easy where the more you succeed, the more you accomplish, the more we think higher of ourselves. And in a way you should think high. You can't think too low of yourself either, but it's so.
There's a thin line there. Like, I understand what you're saying. There's a thin line between confidence and cockiness.
Yeah.
And like everyone likes to talk about Kobe Bryant, and they should, because he was a pretty impressive athlete. But it was his work ethic. It was all the, you know, up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, lifting weights, getting up shots. Then the team comes into practice, and then he stays after, and he's shooting up more shots. And like, he didn't have to do that. He never felt like he arrived. He felt like, you know, hey, I need to increase my field goal percentage 2 or 3 more points in order to be great. And he would just relentlessly pursue these things, right? And there are other examples too, you know, that we can get into. But the point is that, you know, we're on this journey, and a lot of people get to that good enough point and they plateau. And I would argue that those people, there's nothing wrong with that per se. But if you're not pushing yourself, if you're not exposing yourself to challenges, and you're turning into a just enougher, then you're regressing.
Yeah.
You know, and that, I don't think that aligns with Christ either. I think that Christ wants us to have confidence and wants us to continue to realize that we're imperfect. We're all a work in progress, right? And to spend our time and energy to be the best version of ourselves that we can be for society, you know, as a Christian, and then certainly for our families too.
Yeah, the interesting thing is the Bible says not to think of yourself higher than you should, meaning there's obviously you can think too high of yourself and you're going to put others down. You're going to be thinking, putting other people down. But the opposite side of that is if you think too low of yourself, then you're actually, let's use the word, disrespecting your potential and the ability that God gave you. And you're not living to your full potential, which is just as bad as thinking too high of yourself. So it's just having that like sober-minded, in a way, approach to who am I? And for some cases, like if you're meant to change the world, then you have to think of yourself as that. And if that's what God's putting in your life.
Don't be a doormat. You know, speak your mind, be honest, and stand up for who you are, right? Be authentic. But at the same time, like some of the most successful people I've ever met, you know, when you tell them, hey, you really did a great job at A, B, and C, or whatever it is, they're going to look at you and instantly give the credit to someone else. That's what they do. They'll give the credit to someone else. Hey, I couldn't have done that. Yeah, that went great. But if it wasn't for, you know, Jim and Sarah and Brittany, I wouldn't be where I'm at with this project, or whatever the case is, right? They instantly give the credit to others.
Yeah.
That's a superpower.
Deep down inside, there's really no such thing as a self-made person.
No.
It's really a community thing, and it's if it wasn't your upbringing, then it's the people that helped you along the way, or the people that you aspired, or the let's say in this case Christ, who you're aspiring and aligning yourself with. There's no person that's really that great that can do it all on their own. But that's not a bad thing, because that's just the way we're made, and together we accomplish so much more. I mean, I think that's one of the things about this industry too, that it's a really a togetherness kind of industry. Everyone's working together. And that's at least the ones that are most successful. They're working together, they're accomplishing things together. Even the other day, there's another lender that I'm pretty good friends with. He introduces me to another lender and he's like, hey, we work together all the time. I'm like, how are you guys, aren't you guys competitors? He's like, yeah, we are, but we help each other. There's so much more out there than we could possibly on our own have. And I think that mindset shows a lot of strength.
I mean, it's like when you see LeBron James dap up Steph Curry before a game. You're like, well, don't you guys hate each other? You played in the finals like 5 times. No, they recognize that they're both great. They're elite at what they do. Like, and if you're in mortgage in 2025, you're still in mortgage and you're making some money, you're pretty elite at what you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd have been like the other 75%ers that dropped out of the business by now.
Yeah.
You know, so you recognize that in one another. And I also think, Tim, it's important to have an abundance mindset. There's enough opportunity out there for all of us. I wish the people who compete against us the best of luck. And we're going to go hard at you, and I hope that you come hard at us, because we're going to make you better as a result. You're going to make us better as a result. And there's more than enough business and opportunity out there for all of us.
Yeah.
It's the truth.
It's absolutely.
And so when you work with people, like the way we work with people, or real estate agents work with people, you know, you should have that mindset. And really the focus, again, is not about you. It's about the families and the clients that you serve. And one of the things that I really enjoy about social media, particularly with real estate agents, is when they share actual examples of what they've done to impact other people in a positive way. Not the, we won this award, or hey, just sold over here again. Like, post those if you want. I'm not going to tear you down for doing it.
Yeah.
But what resonates with me, and I think most other people, is when you share real life examples of how you came through for someone, how because of you, you know, you did something relevant and you impacted their life for the greater good.
Yeah. I mean, what's in it for them? Or I guess from the consumer side, what's in it for me? I get you got your award, but what's in it for me? What do I get out of this? What does you getting awards mean for me? It means you can serve me better, you can teach me better, you can lead me better.
You know what the byproduct of all that is? Like, if I am focused on people and doing the best I can for the clients that we work with, those results are going to go well. Those results go well, you get referrals back, you get good reviews, and guess what happens downstream from that? You're going to win an award. Okay, so tell that story up front, not the award story or the here's the big deal we just sold. Tell that story up front about, you know, the Connor family who, you know, husband was diagnosed with cancer and couldn't work, and they needed to sell the house, but they weren't sure, you know, whatever it is, and you stepped in and you know, help make that transition a good experience for them when they're going through a tough time. Like, share a real story.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Guys, thank you so much for listening to Eric's story. Thank you, Eric, for being here. If you are looking to partner with someone that truly cares in our industry, and you're looking to buy a home, invest into a home, you guys should definitely reach out to Eric and his team. They've been one of our amazing clients. They're incredible to work with. I've seen it firsthand. And if you want to learn more about Eric's story, you can connect with them on social media. All the links will be down below. Stay tuned, guys. God bless you, and you'll see you in the next episode.